Purpose. He's not been rushed to the hospital. He's walking it off in the hallway. So I think he's okay. He's going to regret that decision later today, though. I can guarantee you that. Right? Am I right? Oh, yeah. Get a milkshake later today. Yes! That's for sure. I got all kinds of goodies. I'm just giving away. Here's a marker for you. There you go. And who doesn't need a fire alarm? There you go. Who doesn't need that? I don't know. It may come in handy later. I'm not sure. Real quick, we got two very special things that actually two very special people that I want us to honor today and tomorrow. Today is Dr. Wilbur's birthday. Give it up. She's in the hallway. You give him a big hug. Tomorrow is Mr. Wagner's birthday. I do want to make note, though, Mr. Wagner. I don't know if you're just being gracious or you're showing your age. You got beat in an arm wrestling contest. What grade are you in? Seventh grader. Oh, you're left-handed. Unfair advantage. Okay. We might have to do a rematch later. I'm not sure. Today, I want to be very practical with you guys. I want to be very. I want this to sink in very easily for you guys. I'm really excited about this. But let's just jump right in. How many of you guys have been in a car accident? You've actually been in one. You're not seeing it, you don't know, but you've actually been in a car accident yourself. Okay. How many of you guys who drive right now? You actually have your license to drive. How many of you guys have been in a car accident? 2 days since your accident? Oh, man. Wow. Gracie, you been driving? Seniors, reckless drivers. How many, those who've been in an accident, do you guys remember what it was like? Was it your fault? Let me ask you, how many of it wasn't your fault? It was Jesus' fault? Both times? Oh, man. So, do you guys remember the feeling, like what it was like when you got in a car accident? Scary, right? Like all of a sudden, like your hands are shaking, right? And your heart's pounding, even if it was minor. Like it is freaky, yeah, but it's just it will shake you up real big. Let me share a couple with you that I have been involved with or in close calls. 2 weeks, it was about 2 weeks after I got my license. Just 2 weeks. My family was doing this birthday party at the McDonald's in Vandalia. I had a friend of mine who lived like just 2 blocks away from Vandalia, or from that particular McDonald's. And so on my way over there, I was like, I'll just stop by her house. I just got my license, say hey. So I did that. I stopped by, we just talked for a little bit. I went to leave, she was standing outside. I went to leave, and I had this big boat of a car, huge, giant car, tiny little side mirror. So I get in the car, I was parked on the curb, it was in like a neighborhood of Platt, and I decided to, I checked my mirror, checked my blind spot, and I started to pull out. Well, tiny little mirror, I didn't see the car that was coming up behind me, and I flipped it, the rear end of the car. Nothing big, but like it's that immediate, like, oh no, like I'm responsible here. And I was kind of frustrated with myself for not like really making sure it was there. So I got mad and I punched the horn, which was a mistake because the horn stuck. So now it wasn't just that I got in a car accident, it was like, I'm like, oh, she was standing outside, I'm like, oh, it was probably the most embarrassing time, I'm telling you. But I get out and I'm shaking, I don't know what to do. Like my first reaction is like, my dad is over at McDonald's right now. Like I want to get my dad, bring him over here so like he can help walk me through what you do with these things. First experience. Another time, this wasn't my fault at all. That was because this wasn't my fault. I was going over the 55 overpass over the highway, right? And there's a car that was getting off the southbound lane on the highway, and they were at a stop. They were going to turn left. My light was green, so I'm going through. And they just decided to go ahead and go. They pulled out, and then they saw me, and they stopped right in front of me. Like, if they just kept going, no problem, no sweat, but they stopped. So I like slammed on my brakes and slid kind of sideways right between the car and this sign, and I stopped right on the median. That car just left. I was shaking so bad. I mean, that would have been a bad accident. I was shaking so bad. This lady that was right behind that car got out and was like, that was a nice driving. I was like, thank you. I mean, I was terrified. Absolutely terrified. When you get in those accidents, when you experience that, even if you didn't get in an accident, but you find yourself in that position, it is scary. I mean, it is terrifying. That's why, because of guys like me, teenage drivers, that's why they put guardrails on the road. You know what I'm saying? Like, to keep you in the road, in these roadway conditions for areas that are really, really bad, right? I remember one time, I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, driving my big boat car, and there was this huge ditch. The road was wet. I pulled out from the intersection, and I goosed it a little bit, because that's what that's what I always did. And I slid the car into the ditch. I'm talking on the phone, driving in the ditch right here, and I'm like, can you hold on a second? I put the phone down, I got it back on the roadway, and she's like, what's that all about? I was in the ditch. I needed a guardrail there. Like, I needed something. Here's the, I don't know if you guys know what a guardrail is. I'm going to throw up a definition. This is an actual definition for it. I'm just going to work this out with you guys. A guardrail is a system designed to keep vehicles from straying into dangerous or off-limit areas. That's what we've created these things on the highway for. Okay? I want to draw a parallel between what we see in the roadside conditions, why we put guardrails there, and why we need those things in our life as well. That's where we're heading today. Matter of fact, that's where we're going to head for the next 3 weeks. Okay, so today we're going to get just kind of an idea of what this means, this whole guardrail thing, and then specifically we're going to deal with what kind of guardrails can we set up in the area of friendships and the relationships that we have. So we can get really practical today. That's where we're headed today. Next week is a split chapel. Junior high, we're still working through some things with what we're going to do with yours. We may go this direction, but next week we're going to talk about relationships and purity and the things that we need to set up in our life in order so that we don't get into these dangerous, life-threatening areas. Okay? The final week, we're going to kind of work through, the third week, we're going to work through how do you establish, what areas in your life do you need to establish guardrails, and that's going to be a much more personal application for you. So we're going to ask that you guys bring journals or something to work through that together with, okay? So let's break this down a little bit, right? So we've got these guardrails. Let me show you some of these guardrails that we have. Guardrails, the theory behind them, okay, the theory behind the guardrail is that it will do less damage to you or your car than whatever was on the other side of that guardrail. So when you hit the guardrail, it's going to do some damage, right? Like you're going to bump up against it, it's going to do damage to you and the guardrail, but it's going to be, the theory is it's going to be less damage than if the guardrail wasn't there and you went off the road. Okay, you guys catching that? So let's take a look at some of these guardrails that we have here. Do we have some of these? Can you throw some of those up? That is a mangled piece of metal right there. The idea, again, keep this in mind, it's going to do less damage to you than if what was on the other side of the guardrail. There's some scary ones as we kind of work through these. That person wishes there was a guardrail in their life. Maybe the boat was considered the guardrail, I'm not sure, but it's in the wrong position if it was. How does that even happen? I want to know if that's her car. And she's kind of like proud of it, like, what did I do? Man, again, less damage to the car than what was on the other side, but how do they do this? I want to know what happened to the person in the back seat. Wow. Okay, Barry, check this one out. Can you imagine eating lunch at that picnic table? Like, you better hope that restaurant has a bathroom inside because you're going to need one. Wow! I mean, that could have been somebody on their bicycle, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Let's talk about just where you typically find guardrails. Okay? The first place we typically find guardrails is on bridges. They put them on bridges, right? Think about it. Why do they put it on a bridge? There's very little margin for error. I mean, like if you, it's not like you have really much of a shoulder. If you go off the bridge, it's like, bye-bye, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's done. It's over. Think about that in your own life. There are times when you find yourself in situations, maybe in relationships, areas of your life that there is really very little margin for error. That if you veer off a little bit, man, you're in trouble. You're hurt. We need guardrails in those situations in our life. Let's take a look at another place that they put guardrails. In medians. Medians. It's like the place in between two lanes of traffic going at high speeds, very close to each other, moving in opposite directions. It is a median. It's right in between two lanes, high speed, moving in opposite directions. You guys catch that? There are times in your life where you'll be around people that are moving in a different direction than what you want your life to move in. And you need guardrails. You need systems in place, things in place for you to separate yourself, to protect yourself from moving with those people in the opposite direction. When you collide with somebody head on, that is a horrific crash. When you get involved with people that are moving in a direction that's opposite of what God has called for your life, and you want your life to be about, that can be a horrific crash in your life. Let's take a look at another one. Curves. Unexpected changes in the roadway. We go down to Tennessee, North Lake, and it's like up the hills of Tennessee, and there are some seriously curvy roads. I mean, stuff that you'll just get sick. It's going crazy. You should see the guardrails on these roads. I mean, they've been used. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've got some serious dents and mangled pieces. There's also some places that clearly they forgot to put the guardrail there. They should have. But if you aren't paying attention and that road curves, it changes direction, and you don't, you're hurting. To work through what are the systems we have in place to prevent us from going in a direction when life changes that we don't want to go in, and it would cause us serious hurt and serious pain in life. Just a little side note here that I want to throw in on this. Parents, if you're a parent, or students, as you look at your parents, good parents set up guardrails in their kids' life. And I know a lot of times we think like, man, it's restrictive, they don't want me to have fun, they don't want me to do this. Good parents will do that. And here's what I want to challenge you guys with as you respond to your parents, and as parents, as you look at guardrails for your kids. It's way better to have, you're going to have conflict, either against the guardrail or in the spot you don't want your kids to be in. You're going to have conflict either way. And now as a dad, I'm looking at this, and I realize if I'm going to have conflict, I want to have conflict on this side of the guardrail. Where the decisions that my son has made or that I have made aren't going to be life-threatening. They're not going to be seriously dangerous to his life. I'm going to have conflicts either way. And think about it this way as you're responding to your parents. They set up guidelines, they set up guardrails for you. I know you're going to have conflict with them. But it's way better to have conflict here than it is if you've made some decisions in your life that have brought you in a place that you're not going to be able to recover from me. So just think about that as you're kind of considering this. Let's flip this guardrail thing. What does this look like as it relates to us in our personal life? So I'm going to throw up just kind of a definition here that we can work with. Okay, guardrails as it relates to us. Okay, as it relates to the highway and roadway, it's a system designed to keep vehicles from straying in dangerous or off-limit areas. As it relates to us, it's a set of personal standard practices that energize or inform your conscience. Okay, so they're practices, they're things that you do, things that you have in place that when you rub up against that, when you acknowledge that that's taking place in your life, all of a sudden it clicks with your conscience of like, red flag. It's like the new Cadillacs, like I don't know if you've seen the commercials. If you start backing up and there's something there, the seat vibrates. That would be really weird if that happened to us all the time. But like that's the kind of idea that we need. We need warning systems to say, okay, hey, I'm starting to head into an area that could be potentially dangerous. Let me throw out one more theory as it relates to guardrails, and then we'll start to kind of get a little bit more practical here. Whenever they place guardrails in a roadway, I want you to catch it. This is critical to understanding this principle. when they placed guardrails in a roadway, they placed it where theoretically you could drive there. It is safe. When they put it on a bridge, they put the guardrails on the roadway. But we don't look at those and say, like, man, if they would have put that guardrail like further out, I could be driving there. Like that would be safe for me to drive. Right? Or like when the road curves, or when you have medians, like theoretically you could drive in that exact same location that they put the guardrail. It's still safe. Right? But they put it there so you don't go past that point. As we're looking at guardrails for our life, you got to keep that in mind. This is critical because this is the reasoning. You want those guardrails in your life to be places that are still safe. You've not gone into a place that is harmful or dangerous. You want to place it in a place that you're not involved or engaged in sin in your life. Like it's still okay, but it's igniting, it's energizing, it's informing your conscience that if I go any further, I'm going to go somewhere where I don't want to be. You guys get that's a critical point as we're going forward with this whole thing. It's interesting because we have these messages in our culture that are kind of like guardrails, and I just want to talk about a couple of them because they're kind of interesting. They treat them like guardrails, but they're really weak guardrails. So it's like things like this: drink responsibly. You hear like every alcohol beer commercial there is. It's like, hey, have fun, drink responsibly. What does that even mean? Like, where's the line of responsibility? And if you're drinking, if you approach that line, are you even gonna care anymore? Right? Like, I mean, like that's kind of like it's just a weak thing. Like, how do you define that? How do you know when you've reached that point of like, okay, now it's not responsible anymore? Like this is a, I think you guys, I don't know if you guys hear this or not, but I've heard this quite a bit in our culture, especially as it relates to where you guys are at. Don't have sex until you're ready. You guys heard that? Don't have sex until you're ready, right? How do you know? Most guys are like, I think I was born ready. Right? Like, how do you even know where this line is? How do you even have that conversation with someone? I'm not saying those concepts are bad, but they're not going to protect you. They're not going to provide protection or direction in your life. They're very vague. And so as we move forward, all of these things are principles, and they're really personal decisions that you have to make to place things in your life for protection and direction. Okay? Let's move into just the area of friendships. How does this work? Right? How does this work? Let's take a look at a passage. It's in Proverbs 13:20. That's where we're going to park out a little bit today. 13:20. We actually have that up here for you. Proverbs 13:20. Solomon, incredibly wise, breaking something down for us that I want us to practice. Okay? It says, walk with the wise and become wise. Walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffers harm. Okay, walk with the wise and become wise. That's a promise. Walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffers harm. That's a warning. Okay, walk with the wise and become wise. A promise. Companion of fools suffers harm. That's a warning. Let's break these two things down real quick. First, understand this. Wisdom is contagious. You surround yourself with people who are wise, who are making wise decisions, and I'm going to help kind of define that a little bit. But as they're making wise decisions, that will rub off on you. Like you will begin making wise decisions in your life because you surround yourself with people who are doing that. What does the Bible clarify? What are they talking about when they talk about somebody who has wisdom, who is wise? It's somebody who understands that the world is connected. It's somebody that understands that the decisions they make today affect the decisions that they'll make tomorrow, who they'll be tomorrow, who they'll be in the future, and the decisions that they'll make in the future. They understand that all of life is connected. That all of these things, even the small things, affect not only you and your future, but also the future of the people around you as well. All of these things are connected. And so when you surround yourself with people who see the world that way, you will begin seeing the world that way. It's a promise. Let me break down this second part. The warning, and this is subtle, but I want you guys to catch this. The warning is not if you become a companion of fools, or if you are a companion of fools, that you will become a fool. That's not the warning. That's not the warning. The warning is that if you hang out with foolish people, you're going to suffer harm. Not that you're going to become a fool, not that you're going to see the world the way they see, or do the things that they do, or make the decisions that they make. It's that you're going to suffer the consequences of the decisions that they make. You guys catch it? Let me break down what a fool is in Scripture. A fool is someone who knows the difference between right and wrong and doesn't care. Someone who knows what's right and wrong and they just don't care. They're just going to do what they want to do anyway. That's what a fool is. They live their life as if life is disconnected, that the decisions that they make today don't affect tomorrow, that they don't affect the people around them. If we're honest, real quick, I think this is a very obvious statement. How many of us have been from divorced families? You'd be willing to admit there's no shame at all. Divorced families. You probably know clearer than anyone else that the decisions of others affect people around you. It affects the entire family. It affects your relationships with friends. It puts a different dynamic on things. The warning, catch this. The warning is not that you're going to become a fool because you hang out with foolish people. That you hang out with people who know the difference between right and wrong and don't care. It doesn't mean that you're going to become that. And I think oftentimes our objection to why we hang out with those people is because, well, it doesn't affect me. I'm not going to be like that. I'm just hanging out with that person. The promise isn't that that's the danger. The promise is that the danger is you're going to suffer the consequences. It's like when they make a decision and they have these explosive results from the foolish decisions they make. You're gonna get hit by shrapnel from their decisions. That's kind of the idea that Solomon's breaking down for us here. Think about it this way. If you have friends that don't care about their lives, they know the truth right wrong, they don't care. If you have friends that don't care about their lives, are they going to care about yours? If they don't care about their reputation, are they going to protect or care about your reputation? If you have friends that really don't care about the consequences of their decisions, are they going to care about the consequences of their decisions in your life? Probably not. So we need guardrails. How do we protect ourselves? How do we set up this area? I'm going to take a look at just one more proverb here. These proverbs are awesome. And so I just want to break this off just real quick. It's 27:12. 27:12. This is the basis of really why we established guardrails in our life. Proverbs 27:12. It says, the prudent see danger. The prudent is the wise person. Someone who's wise. The prudent sees danger and takes refuge. In other words, they're looking for stuff that is potential danger and they set up guardrails in their life. To take refuge, to protect themselves from those areas. Whereas the simple keep going and suffer for it. Basic guardrail principle. Someone who's wise sees the danger, sees the cliff, sees the bridge. They set up guardrails to protect themselves from it. The simple, they see it, but they don't care, and they keep going, and they find themselves in a rough predicament. So let's take a look here. I'm just going to throw out 5. I'm going to throw out 5 for you in the area of friendships. Okay, if you want to grab these, I think it would be absolutely phenomenal. Again, these are principles, things, actions, behaviors that you set up in your life that when it happens, there's something that lights up inside of you. There's a red flag that goes up. There's caution lights. You see a guardrail, something takes place that you recognize, okay, I need to make a decision here. And then you do something about it. So let me just throw out a few. Your conscience should light up. Your conscience should light up. When it dawns on you that your core group isn't moving in the direction you want your life to move in. Okay? Catch that again. Your conscience should light up. There should be a red flag, something that warning sign that says when your core group isn't moving in the same direction you want your life to move into, there should be something that just triggers the conscience, something that makes you want to do something about it. Here's the key to it though. You have to recognize where your core group is headed. You have to begin kind of evaluating that. You also have to have a decent understanding of where you want your life to head into. Now those two things are maybe for a different point, but at a different time, but I think you need to evaluate those things. If you were to identify where's your core group of friends headed, and where do you want to head, do they line up with each other? Okay? That's kind of the idea of that median. You want your life to head in one way, people you're around are heading the other way, you need to set up some guardrails, some things in your life. So when you hit that point, That you recognize, man, the people I hang out with are going in this direction, and I want to go in this direction. It may be time for you to either find an additional group of friends or another group of friends. We'll come back to that objection, because I think it's a critical one to address. Your conscience should light up when you catch yourself pretending to be someone different than you really are. You're trying really hard to fit in. Or when people that you care about, people that are around you, recognize, hey, when you're around this person, you act different. When you're around this group of people, you're a different person. That should trigger something inside of you that makes you want to act and do something about that. That's not a healthy place to be, right? That's kind of like a curve in the road where you're this way most of the time, and all of a sudden you change when you're around certain people. You throw some guardrails. You need to make a decision. Are these people I need to be around? Number 3, your conscience should light up when you feel pressure to compromise. Or let me say it this way. When what has never been a temptation before suddenly becomes a live option. Like when you have thought about things that you'll never do, and all of a sudden you're around a certain group of people, and then you feel this pressure, and all of a sudden you're like you're starting to consider the option. I'm not saying when you've already done it. I'm saying when you find yourself considering it, that should be your guardrail. Right? Not that okay, when I'm around these people, I do these things, and I don't really want to do it. That's the cliff. You've already gone over. When you rub up against that guardrails, is the moment when you say, man, I'm starting to consider stuff that I never really would have considered before. You need to consider that in your life. You catch that? When you hear yourself saying, I'll go, but I won't participate. Have you guys been there? And trust me, I know that you've been at friends' houses, there's been parties going on or whatever, and I've heard this. Hey, I go hang out with them, but I don't do this stuff that they do. When you start hearing yourself making that comment, that should be a red flag. Your conscience should light up and energize you to the point that you've got to change, you've got to do something about it, and not go there. That's the idea of the guardrail. Not that you've gone there and you're just hanging out, because I think at that point you're in a position where you could be going in the wrong direction. You could be going off the bridge at this point. When you start to feel that pressure to go somewhere where you're not going to participate, here's Solomon's warning again. It isn't necessary that you do what they do. It's not necessary that you go. The problem isn't that you go and do what they're doing at the party. The problem is that you're going to suffer harm by just being in the vicinity around people that do foolish stuff. That's his warning. The warning's not that you're going to become a fool. The warning's that you're going to suffer harm by being around that stuff. Are you guys hearing that? That's critical. That is critical. One more. We'll do one more. And I think this is one that it clicked with me big time. Your conscience should light up when you hope the people you care about the most don't find out where you've been or who you've been with. Like in your mind, you start making a defensive argument for why you were there or why you were with those people. Have you guys been there? You know your parents don't like you hanging around with those people, or there's a group of friends you hang out with that really don't think you should be hanging out with this other group of people because of the stuff they're involved in. And so you start thinking, man, if they find out that I'm there, you don't want them to find out. And you care about those people, and they care about you, and you don't want them to find out. Your conscience should light up. That's a guardrail. I'm not saying when you're hanging out with those people, it's not the things you do. It's just being around them. You're going to suffer harm. You're going to deal with the consequences of their decisions. Okay, now here's what I want to break down for you real quick. I know that your objection may be, this is my group of people. This is who I hang out with. This is all I have. I don't have anyone else. And I'm saying again, go back to Solomon's warning. It's not a matter of you making those decisions yourself. It's a matter of you suffering harm because of the decisions of other people. Start making proactive steps, being intentional about finding an additional group. Finding people that you can surround yourself with that are moving in the same direction you're wanting your life to move in. That are wise, that are seeing how their decisions are connected to their future decisions and and then how that affects the people around them. Find an additional group. Start there. You can, trust me, there's plenty of people that you can surround yourself with, you can begin talking to, that you can recognize that in your life. I'm also not saying that you need to adopt these 5 concepts. I'm just throwing some out there. I think it would be really wise if you did. Have the conflict on this side of the guardrail, not in the ditch, not over the cliff. Have the conflict there. And you begin moving in a direction that allows God to shape your future. Next week, we're going to talk about specifically relationships and purity. We're going to start taking a look at that area of your life. Let me challenge you this week, right now. Begin taking a look at your life. Maybe in the next classes that you guys can carry on this conversation. I think it would be really helpful. What areas of your life do you see that you need guardrails in? What areas of your life do you see that you need something to help protect and shape, direct your future? What areas do you need those in? And then what do those guardrails look like? If you carry that conversation on with each other, I think you can really play off of the ideas and concepts, and then you can even help each other with accountability with that. That's a phenomenal concept. So we're going to go specifically into the area of purity and relationships next week, and then the following week, the third week, we're going to go more into this idea of how these guardrails not only protect you, but direct your life and the future. And we're going to give you guys time at that point to really work through what are these areas, these guardrails that need to establish, what are the areas that need guardrails in, and what do those guardrails look like. I really want to challenge you guys. Begin that thought process. Take some of these principles, these concepts, start adopting them into your life. Start making them a matter of conscious decision that when you start seeing yourself thinking those things or doing these things, that you will begin making a conscious effort to move in a different direction. And it's amazing what will happen as a result of that. The regret that you won't experience in your life as a result of it. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the wisdom, the people that you surround us with that have wisdom, in order for us to live a life that is full, God, a life that you've intended us to, a life without regrets, God, but a life that has purpose and direction, and a life that you want to do some just absolutely incredible things with. God, give us the wisdom, the discernment to find those areas in our life that we need protection in, that we need direction in. And God, give us the community of people around us that will support us in moving forward. God, thank you for the time that we have, thank you for the student body that we have. That's just a blast. It's so much fun to be together. God, just pray again just for protection and for guidance and direction and wisdom. It's your name.